I know, but the thing is, they're not going to like leave 5 minutes of me screwing around with the projector.
But you don't understand, Jay. It's a pass-through. They're already been recording.
No, my point is on the website. It's not going to have 5 minutes of me.
Have you met John?
That'll be funny. That'll be like a whole separate video. Jay screwing around with the projector and the. So hello. Wow, that was loud. Okay. So hello, my name is Jay Freeman. For those of you who don't know me, I run Cydia, the alternative to the App Store on jailbroken iPhones. I was the person who did a lot of the initial alternative tool chain work, and I did all the code signature work that we have on when you're not working with Apple's normal code sign tools. What I'm talking about today is a tool that I oftentimes talk about actually or use at 360 iDev, and only sometimes really talk about Cycript, which is CYCRIPT. Wow, that actually worked because it's case insensitive on Mac, isn't it? And which I pronounce script. I pronounce the CY here as a geminate S. I don't particularly care what you pronounce it as, but oftentimes people do, and so I end up actually telling them often. But I mean, like if you're in a conversation with me and you don't seem to be caring, I'm probably not going to be caring. So Cycript actually happened because when I first got involved in the world of jailbroken iPhones, my big task was to port a JVM to the iPhone. That was something that I had consulting clients who wanted to have cross-platform software that would work on every device and the iPhone. These people used to work at a carrier, and they're used to shoving around handset manufacturers, and so they insisted that it didn't matter how I did it because they would just go to Apple, tell them, you're doing this now. And Apple would do it, which I thought was crazy. But hey, I got to be paid to do open source JVM porting to the iPhone, so that was awesome. Because of course, as to be clear, Java ran on every other phone imaginable except for the iPhone, which at the time didn't run anything because there was no App Store, there was no SDK, there was nothing. So I ported a JVM to it, and the JVM that I ported was a JVM called JamVM, which is kind of a slow, semi-broken one at times. But it was great because of how portable it was. In the process, I built a tool which I called Jockstrap, Java Objective-C Bootstrap, which took an Objective-C framework and would take the binary file and compile it in a way, not really compile it, like it would automatically generate a jar file that had all of the metadata information from that binary framework, and would have all of the stubs required, JNI calls required in order to allow you to interface with everything that was in that binary. Now, one of the problems with this is that every time Apple released a new version of the firmware, I had to regenerate all the stubs, and you had to have stubs that matched the underlying system. That was annoying. The other thing that was annoying is that honestly, the whole process was kind of slow and broken, and I never really had a good use case for trying to write a program in Java that was on this phone. But one day I ran Rhino, which is a Java implementation of JavaScript, and it was awesome. So to be clear, by the way, despite the fact I've been doing this kind of weirdly advanced Objective-C stuff, I had yet to really learn all of the classes. Like I can tell you all sorts of stuff about the underlying library framework, like the Objective-C runtime, but I couldn't really tell you anything about Foundation, much less UIKit, because we didn't have any documentation for that yet. And so I was trying to learn how all this stuff worked, and I had this experience then of sitting in Rhino, being able to just play around with the frameworks with an interactive thing. Now, of course, you've been playing around with things like playgrounds and things like that, and so you have this experience like that. But this was this like moment of, oh my god, this is awesome. All right. But then the problem is it was even slower. Because like Rhino was generating a bunch of code that was like trying to generate a bunch of stuff for the JVM, and I tried to write a program in JavaScript, and it ended up taking more than 10 seconds, which is the maximum amount of time an app has to start, and the thing would just keep crashing. And so you'd keep running it over and over again until it happened to like warm up fast enough to get an app running. So I decided one day I was going to solve all these problems, but it was going to require a whole lot of work, because I needed to essentially do it all on just targeting directly to a JavaScript runtime. I came to 360 iDev in 2009, and I had pneumonia. And I really was just like sitting here, unable to do anything, but my brain was still working. It was like walking pneumonia. And so I ended up like typing in an entire JavaScript grammar. And in the process of doing that, I was able to then add extensions to it. I tied it all into JavaScript core, and by the end of 360 iDev, I had a prototype of what is now Cycript, which I've been slowly improving over the course of now many years. Script is, this is really biting me. Okay. So script is kind of like when you run it, it's kind of like you're running node.js. In fact, actually, nowadays I sometimes will describe it as node.js, but what if instead of using V8 it was using JavaScript core? And what if you had implicit native access to Objective-C, C, and Java all at the same time? So I can go and I can put numbers in here and they pop up, great. I can declare a variable, okay. One thing you'll note is that I've got really great live syntax highlighting of the things that I'm typing. I also have syntax highlighting of all the things that are being displayed back at me. It's just JavaScript, right? Okay, yay. The tab completion that I built is actually executes fragments of the text that you type. So I can say like this dot tab. Okay, she wasn't expecting that. Hello, (5). There we go. Hello, H. Hello. Oh, A didn't tab complete because there was no. I don't know why A didn't tab complete. Well, now I'm curious why A didn't tab complete, but oh, now it's I don't know what's going on. I must have typed something a little weird. Okay. But you'll see, like, it's actually showing me all the dynamic properties of the JavaScript object as it's going through. It's a grammar-assisted tab complete. So I drop a tab in the actual token stream, and I figure out the specific things you're doing. There's a reason why I do that, which we're about to get into, is that I bridge the Objective-C runtime into everything in JavaScript, and I do it in an extremely like fluid manner. So I can have a variable. Sorry, I can have an array. F. Okay. And now I can say, like, f of 0 is that. All right, great. I can also, though, say f object at index, I tab completed there, 0, and I can get back an Objective-C 6. I can have an Objective-C array, which has the little at indicating it's an Objective-C array. And I can then do this, and I can say, like, of 0, and I get 8. I can do, I want to do slice. Oh, let's put some more elements in here. 2, 1, 1. No, wait, there. Probably using slicing correctly. 2, 3. There we go. So now I get back a JavaScript, because I took an Objective-C array and I sliced it with a JavaScript function. So I get back a JavaScript array that contains Objective-C objects inside of it. The bridging, if I ask for like instance of that, this keyword won't tab complete. I should work on keyword tab completion someday. Instance of JavaScript array, true. So if you take like an Objective-C string and you instance of string, what do you want, Chrome? I don't care. Oh, no. Okay. All right. Instance. So if I have an Objective-C string and I do instance of string, I get true. Okay. So you can take Objective-C objects and you can instantiate them. Like I can say new NS. Actually, that's very confusing. Why I would do that. NS object alloc init auto release. RO is equal to that. I get back an Objective-C object. Because this paradigm is absolutely so common, I do new NS object. New NS object will return an allocated auto-released object into JavaScript. Now you also have to be now you're like, this is JavaScript, and you're kind of doing memory management here. I mean, you're doing manual retain and release. Well, one of the reasons why is that I want to be able to interact with the library, whatever the library is and however the library is designed, because of my use case of trying to spelunk and understand libraries. And sometimes libraries have either slightly broken memory management or have confusing memory management, and so I really needed to support this. But if you hardly ever have to work with it because you can just use new, and I manage all of I make certain that there are enough references for my use case. I just don't make certain that if you run up seriously continue to release this, you can eventually crash this. Here we go. All right, segmentation fault. Oh, and I up-entered it, or I'm already back into it. Okay. So it goes lower though. So I spent a lot of time interfacing with things in C. So I want the ability to interface, like allocate an integer. So I can say new int, and I get back an address of a 0. And I can use star, and I can set that to 6, and I've got the address of a 6. If I want to get rid of this I, well, actually that's a very good question. I might have started garbage collecting these. I think I do. So if you use new, just like the automatic memory management on the new object, if this I is going to be tracked as garbage. So you should hold on to reference to it. If you don't want to do that, you should malloc some memory. You can use malloc. So malloc is coming up with some extra syntax here, but it's because I can do dealsim. If anyone's used dealsim before, dealsim allows you to dynamically look up a function at runtime. So I can do dealsim malloc rtld default malloc, and I'm going to get back the address of malloc. And now I'm going to typecast it, and to typecast it, I need to have a type object. And so like int is a type. Like I say int, and I get this type def int. If I want to declare like an int pointer, well that's going to be like trying to get JavaScript syntax, int times 6. So I introduce encode, which is from ObjC, in order to give you type objects. So this will give us a integer pointer. And if I want to have a function pointer, I would then do like void pointer takes an unsigned long. All right, that's a type object. Now I'm going to typecast malloc to that. And it actually figures out that it's malloc because it's also looking at the symbol table in reverse, trying to come up with names for anything that it sort of understands. All right. You can also, though, because I'm trying to make it so that it's really easy for you to be able to interface quickly with a bunch of C code, you can just type this. So extern C void malloc unsigned long will automatically do the dynamic lookup of the name. It will do the typecasting, and will do everything, and will declare a malloc for you. But you will also remember that I didn't do any of this when I started. I just typed malloc, and it was there. I wrote a Clang, a tool with Clang that parses almost all of the Apple SDK in order to generate a little database of automatic bindings that are available to you. This database of bindings includes things like time, and MK time is what I want. All right, MK time takes a struct TM. All right, what is a struct TM? Struct TM is a structure. I support structures. You can interface into the fields of structures, manipulate them. All right. So again, now you might be like, what am I going to do with all of this? I've got all of this ability to manipulate all of these low-level things. My experience has been that I'm sitting around and I'm trying to remember how to use, I mean, hopefully not NS Dictionary, but I'm trying to remember how to use something like, NS Dictionary. New NS Dictionary. Nit. And I'm trying to remember what it's got. Okay, object for keyed subscript, object for keys. I'm loving being able to do that. All right, that's great. If there's a library that's available on the system somewhere, I can load it and use it. But let's take the calculator app. All right, so the calculator app is now running, and I can go and I can inject myself into the calculator app. I have to log in, and now I'm inside of the calculator app. And I'm able to now spelunk the data structures that are inside of the calculator app. So I don't do Cocoa as much as I do iOS stuff, but like NS application shared application, and then I think we can get a list of windows, and then we can kind of drill into the user interface structure. We can actually modify the user interface structure if we can find something like a title calculator is equal to DSA, and now the calculator says DSA. So there are people who've used script as kind of like Apple script on steroids. There are a lot of people actually. The most common use case is that I'm trying to understand how that app works, or I'm trying to figure out, like maybe you've got an application that is doing network calls, and there's a library of objects that you can use in order to interact with that program. You can essentially then script its internal frameworks and figure out what it's doing at the network level. All right. Sometimes in the process of doing this, you determine that you would like to change behavior, like change actually the runtime behavior of the program, not just like manipulate what it's doing, but you want to change the functionality, and we can do that as well. So if I take NS, actually iPhone, no, that's not going to work. No, okay. Locate iPhone simulator.app. There's one. No, yes, there, okay. Open. Kind of slow, but it'll catch up. Okay, there we go. All right, so script-p springboard. All right, now I'm sitting inside of the iPhone simulator springboard. UI app. All right, great. So I've got all of these icons that are here, SB icon. And part of what's cool about this is that I only have to sort of remember what I'm doing always. So there's a class SB icon. Let's want to figure out what's on SB icon. That used to actually be something slightly different now, isn't it? So I'm going to go to the prototype of SB icon, and I'm going to see what's on the prototype. Used to be you did messages, and I changed that. So prototype. That's annoying. All right, fine. I will just instantiate an SB icon, and then try to send it a message, and that'll tell me what's on it. All right. SB icon view. Yes. All right. So SB icon view has a set is editing. Prototype set is editing. All right, so what I've done here is I've bridged the ObjC message hierarchy and the JavaScript prototype hierarchy, which I probably should explain. What people probably don't do enough JavaScript. So in JavaScript, when you do object orientation, it's what's known as a prototype-based language. It's not a standard class-based object-oriented language. So when you have something like new something, and you want that to work, what new something does is it runs a function called something, and it gives that an implicit dispointer. So if I say function something this dot hello is equal to 5, and then I say new something, I get back, and actually Script does something crazy trying to render this for you. You get back and do something with hello set to 5. And if you want to then put something on it's like if I do s is equal to that. If I want to be able to work with this, like I want a function on it, I do something dot prototype. So something is a function which has a dot prototype on it, and I can then put a function on here, return this dot hello plus 5. So now if I do s dot work, I should get 10 because it's taking this dot hello, which is 5 plus 5, and I get 10. And the same prototype hierarchy then I can use with ObjC. SB icon view.prototype set is editing has a native function that Script is trying to figure out what the symbol for, and it comes up with colon set is editing colon. And you'll note that if you're putting it in quotes, this is some weird syntax from a C perspective, but it's trying to help you as a user. I'm going to make a backup copy of that, and then I'm going to set it to something else. To function. All right, and there's always like a set alpha. So I'm going to instead do this set alpha, and then this set is editing takes an argument. Okay, close enough. VAULE. There we go. All right. 0.5 or 1. All right. Okay, so now if I click and hold one of these, it faded out when it went into editing mode. I was expecting, when I usually do this, I succeed in editing something that causes them all to fade out, which is involve them like this set is jittering. But yeah, so now there's a way to hit the home button. Home. All right. It didn't because I was only working with the one view though for some reason it didn't undo it. You can see I can take ObjC code and I can just swap it out with JavaScript code. I can also com.sorc substrate ms. I provide bindings now. Cannot find bind module com.sorc substrate. I know what that is. I just didn't install it very well. All right. Com.sorc substrate. No. /star 0.9. Okay. There. That looks good. /com sorc substrate ms. Okay, that's what I've expected. Just out of curiosity, com sorc substrate. Oh, I know what's going on. So the copy of script that is injected into Springboard is still the copy of script that is used from the wrong path. Oh, I just did it again. There, so that'll work. All right, so we're not in Springboard right now. But So Substrate is a library that I build that people use in order to make modifications to, I mean, often Objective-C classes. They provide some more functionality for handling inheritance hierarchies, but it also lets you modify native code. So if I've got like fprintf, and I would like to modify its behavior, I can do ms.hookFunction, and ms.hookFunction will take a function to make a modification to, and will replace it with another function. And it also gives you back a pointer to the original, which is going to be really represented by an empty object. So fprintf, and then function fprintf took a file. Actually, fprintf was like a really horrible case. Fopen takes a name and a mode. All right, and then we're going to have an array, which we're going to push those arguments into, and we're going to call the original. So we're going to do star old should work, and then we're going to return that value. We're going to call name plus DSA comma mode, and then we have to pass in old. And that should have worked, although we'll see how horribly I crashed it. So what this modification is trying to do is every time somebody calls fopen, we're going to log what they tried to open, and then we're going to make it so they open a different file instead. So fopen sum for reading, I get back null, empty string 8. Empty string 8. Fopen. Okay, yeah, so that's, all right. So it worked, by the way. It actually worked fine, but you have to, we're dealing with a very low-level memory management paradigm. So the string constant that was in RAM, I actually put the string pointer in this array. And the location in memory that pointer for sum was at no longer has the word sum in it. So we actually would need, let's just reopen this because we kind of broke it. Import, okay. And now we're gonna go here, and instead of doing this, we're gonna do .toString on it to get a JavaScript string from the, but I needed to do that. All right, so now I do fopen that, and A will have sum and R. There we go. Fopen failed, of course, because that file didn't exist. Let's open it for writing. Okay. We get back a file structure, which because I parsed the Apple SDK, I have the complete details and structure contents of what the file structure has internally, and which script just loves rendering for us. And now, if we look for some DSA is what's actually sitting on disk, because we modified the arguments to fopen. And this wasn't just some JavaScript level trick or anything. I mean, when we run fopen here, this had no clue what ms.hookFunction was doing. So it was just calling the underlying fopen, which then got overridden by ms.hookFunction. All right. So one thing I've been doing over the last year is I have added support for Java. So on Mac OS X, you also have a JVM. And so I can do Java util, I already got this wrong, hash map? Yes, all right. If you want the result of the previous execution, you can use an underscore. And so now this hash map, I can put inside of it an Objective-C object. Undefined is not a function, it's not set. It is, what is it? Tab complete does not work very well yet on Java objects. So it apparently sort of worked though. Put. All right, great. So now in our Java hash map, we have a key DSA which has the value of an NS object. And if I go into our Java hash map, can't find variable D. Oh, not D. H. There we go. We get back the original Objective-C object. I can also put JavaScript objects into Java. I can take Java objects, put them into JavaScript, etc. I carefully bridge all of the exceptions that occur. So if an exception occurs in Java getting called by some Objective-C code that's getting called by JavaScript code with a bunch of things, the exception will filter back, and you can catch it as best as you like in JavaScript as a JavaScript exception. To come up with an example of that, right? So you can construct a native function like using C++ lambda syntax. Which I think it's this, yeah. So I'm going to construct a function that takes no arguments and returns void. All right. So this function is going to throw a JavaScript exception. Okay, and then we're going to call it, and script renders thrown exceptions as the word throw, and like something that would try to best it maybe be able to do reconstitute the behavior of the exception. So I can try that catch e, and then y is equal to e, and now y is the object hello. All right. So let's do something better though. Let's go into here and let's use an ObjC object incorrectly. So let's go into an empty empty ObjC dictionary, and let's do object for key. You'll note that it actually is tab completing here because even though we're inside of this function and everything, I'm choosing to execute this and then get an actual object for that and then tab completed through. So it's not doing type inference. It's just doing like live execution of fragments of things that you do.
And when you backspace, you deallocate it?
No, it's already gone. I mean it's memory. It's memory tracked the way that ObjC normally would be. The main thing is actually you just have to know that if you do like function that deletes everything on my hard drive, but I'm curious what it returns. .tab, it will run that. So destructive things will happen during tab completion. All right, so object for key DSA. Actually, is that going to return nil? I guess maybe, or not a object at index on an array will definitely fail. There we go. So the hash mark indicates that this is an ObjC object that we're looking at the description of. So we actually are getting the original ObjC object for that exception. And again, actually, I've already got it up here. If I do this, y is an ObjC object that I can get that exact string by doing .description. And now instead of getting the pound, which indicates that it's an ObjC object, I get the @ which indicates that it's just an ObjC string. Let's see. So the reason I added Java support in the first place was that you can run it on Android. So if you download script from the script.org, you can run this on Android as well. Let's see other things. You can declare ObjC classes, not class. It's at implementation hello ns object has a field called something and has a description. Actually, I probably should put in ns string description, which returns this something, and that will actually more dynamic than ObjC. All right, syntax error there. All right, so now I've got hello. Now we're going to allocate a new hello, and I get back the description as 0. Oh, interesting. So I actually got back the description, which is supposed to return an NS string, returned an NS number, because ObjC doesn't particularly care about that stuff. And so I bridged the integer something to an ObjC object and ended up with an NS number, which I then passed back. I'm pretty sure. So the pound 00 is just interesting, isn't it? It's because it's just that. Yeah. So that will, no, not that. There. Yeah, it's an ObjC number. Okay. Other things that would be fun to explain. Yes, by the way, I did not plan, clearly, any of this talk. I asked John yesterday if there were any slots in the schedule that I could add myself into in order to explain parts of script again and some of these new, because all this new typedef stuff. So like typedef int y now works in a way that you might sort of imagine. And actually, it just occurred to me that I'm still using @encode, but you can use typedef like I call it a typedef expression. Which in various ways was actually, I felt more natural, and I forget to even try and make myself start doing that, which means I'm actually showing you weird things. It's like this typedef expression for even doing function pointers, whatever. You can declare a new struct, int y. That's gonna be interesting. Actually, yeah, because you can't. Yeah, it's an anonymous struct expression. Now that one's interesting. Y unexpected identifier underscore expecting semicolon. Well, this will work. Okay. Oh, you have to use typedef with struct. It's a typedef expression. Great. I don't know how my own tool works. But thankfully, I can learn because it outputs its own syntax as its main way of interacting with you. That was one thing I really hate about most REPLs is that they've got this output that looks nothing like things you can input. Generally, things that script outputs, even when it outputs something really weird, like I'm pretty certain that if I took that string constant that we got a while ago, so that was the set. Oh, the set is editing was gonna be a little weird, but if I were to do like xturn c int malloc here, I believe I made this work at one point. I've been considering making it work again. But try it. I mean, you can copy and paste this in, even that's an expression. You can get an xturn expression, and then that will return the object. I provide some syntax extensions. So like a new. We don't do something anymore, but something there, new something. So this returned back that new something hello 5. That's valid, and it will extend the something object that it allocates with the field value of hello being equal to 5. No. There. Great. Okay.
Okay, question.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
All right.
So you patched that code.
I did. Yeah.
Is that still patched? Is it
I don't remember if I closed. Is this the same? No, because no, it's only patched in the process we were in, and I actually closed script and reopened it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah.
So you can use this to let's see what's happening inside a running program. If you want to do that on a running program on the iPhone, do you SSH into the iPhone?
Yes. Yeah. So in order to do this on a running program in the iPhone, you can. And if you watch like my talk, there's a video. Actually, is linked from the script website from 360 iDev a couple years ago. I describe the new feature I'd added at that point was a library you can drop into your project in order to introspect on stuff that's running in your program. If you're trying to find a weird bug in your view hierarchy and you find this to be useful. If you want to introspect into something like the Notes app on the iPhone, which is the kind of thing that we were working on with Tom yesterday, you will need to have a jailbroken iPhone in order to run script on the Notes app. Now to run script on a random other app that you got from the App Store, I'm working on that. But right now you will need to have somebody with a jailbroken iPhone to download the IPA file, decrypt it, and then you could essentially just mix the library in. But I'm working on trying to make that really smooth for you with no jailbroken components that you have. And so there's one particularly magical thing I should show. So I have this function called choose. Choose will take a class and return all of the instances of that class by going and heap scavenging memory and finding all the instances. And so I find this particularly useful when I'm going into section. So Tom was trying to understand part of how the Notes app was working yesterday because he had given a talk a couple days ago on CloudKit. And there's this one thing we never really understand how part of the Notes app really did this thing. And so you can go into the Notes app and try to okay, is it using a CloudKit database anywhere? Let's just find all of its CloudKit databases. I don't need to figure out where in the hierarchy its CloudKit databases might be stored. Yeah.
Can you do something like take an application and install it directly into the simulator's springboard? Can you do that?
Like an application that was written using script? Because you can write applications with script. I don't people ask me oftentimes can we do that? And you can. I never really support it very well because it's very obtuse. You end up having to do slightly more typing than the equivalent Objective-C, and otherwise it looks almost identical. But that wasn't your question, though. What was your? Yeah.
For example, you can take an application you got from the App Store and then install it directly into the simulator in here. Is that possible?
No. So the simulator is the way that the iOS simulator works is it's running all of the Apple code compiled to Intel, and the code you get from the Apple Store, the App Store is going to be ARM, and so you can't download that and run it. That's why we say that Android comes with an emulator, and iPhone comes or iOS comes with a simulator, and so the emulator lets you actually just download an Android app and run it in the emulator. The simulator does not. The other trade-off, though, is the emulator is really slow, and the simulator is not. So, yeah.
Have you thought about building an ARM emulator to include in there?
I have not. There's so much Apple tends to have very poor containment on the stuff that they write. So like even like the Notes app, like when you write an app, you have to write an app that is kind of contained in an app. The Notes app has a system-wide framework for shared notes code. And that framework then will oftentimes have random modifications they've made to maybe CloudKit itself or UIKit. And so you tend to end up having to emulate lots of random other processes that are running on the system to make any of their applications function correctly. I know some people who have built like an iPhone emulator, but it's not open in the community. It only is for the iPhone 4, and it is and it's also very slow. Yeah. So you can it currently does not crash with Swift. That's cool. That was a bug fix this year. So actually, I purposely have made some changes, actually some like weirdly breaking changes in some cases to make it Swift syntaxy compatible. If you have a static, so if you have a class in Objective-C and you do an instance message on the class, so instead you're doing a class message in Objective-C. Normally in Objective-C you can just do dot syntax for that, and you get property get syntax for it. But in Swift you have to use open parenthesis close parenthesis. And it turns out that actually that's kind of nice that they did that in Swift because the way that the prototype Objective-C I consider to be kind of a prototype language. The way the prototype hierarchy works when you're in a static class almost needs that. So I actually was very happy when I figured that out. I made it so that tab completion will auto tab complete through the parentheses like Swift does. I have syntax of like ready and waiting for keyword arguments. No, I'm doing something wrong. But I've got syntax ready and waiting for doing the keyword arguments and like doing that all together. Oh, I know why. I parse it correctly, and then I assume the JavaScript the underlying JavaScript implementation has support for it, because I don't translate it yet. But part of what happened is that Swift keeps telling us every year that they're going to have a stable ABI soon, and they don't. And maybe next year they'll have a stable ABI. And so I really want to sit around and spend more time supporting Swift, but it's just like Yeah. If you ever have for what it's worth though, if you have an app that you're trying to introspect and there's something written in Swift that you can't sort of tell me. I will make that work. I can't. I also haven't found anyone with Swift use cases that I can really like get my teeth into. So yeah.
Well, along those same lines, so if an application is built in Swift and then deployed to like the simulator or on a device even, at that point you can still use Objective-C syntax, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just there will be some Swift things that don't translate into Objective-C, and they will be very difficult to interface with script. If you actually can, I mean, I gave a talk at AltConf a few years ago, and so like 3 days after Swift was announced, on how to introspect a Swift object in script manually. So you can watch that, but that's really, really horrible. All right. I think you had a question somewhere? Yeah.
I definitely have questions, but I don't have any right now.
I thought somebody here had their hand raised that was in front of. Yeah.
You had the calculator app up earlier. How hard is it to go in there and just like change what the plus button actually does?
I don't know AppKit well enough to have any clue. I mean, like, if somebody here knows how to do like native desktop apps, I mean, we'll go find all of our views. It's like we've got a custom view. It's a good one. It does. No, wait, no. I mean, the iPhone does, but this does not. We could connect. I did not bother setting up the whole. Oftentimes I will also have like VNC here, and so you can like VNC server into, and then we'll have like a jailbroken component as part of the demo. I was not bothering with that today. So
is the jailbreaking required to get into any of the apps that
Apple ships? Yes.
But not on the desktop.
Not on the desktop. Oh, but you do have to jailbreak your Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll have to reboot your Mac and hold down Command R, and then go into terminal, and then do CSR-util disable in order to turn off system integrity protection, because Apple doesn't want you to be able to inject code into their calculator app. So.
You do all that. Let's say you had an app like Calculator, you didn't like how it functioned, you wanted to change something about it, and so you looked at it, figured out what you need to do in script to make the change. Is there an easy way to implement that so that it'll run all the time when you run that app?
Not currently, no. So what I typically do is I on the iPhone, I encourage people who are using script to make modifications to spelunk in script, and then solidify in Substrate. Substrate is a native framework and library for doing this sort of stuff, and Script is garbage collected. And I said, like, you've got some manual memory management that you sometimes you can think about, but you don't normally have to think about. And so what'll end up happening is as you're touching objects, they start getting added to the JavaScript heap, and they just never go away until you manually garbage collect. And so you just end up doing weird things to the heap of that program. And so I always want people to use Substrate to build their final modifications, but but I don't have like an easy installable I mean, like people actually do, like if you look online, you'll find people are using script to do semi-weird permanent modifications. They'll just have the app run and then have it auto-inject script into there after the app runs. But then that's like after, because also I don't have a way right currently of having script start when the app, before the app starts, because that's actually more important than when the app starts. Like you want to be able to modify stuff before any of the code ever gets run, so the data structures are correct. And so I don't have a way of doing that with script currently.
So there's like device farms or whatever, like Amazon has a device farm with iPhones and all that kind of stuff. Like, is it possible to run device on a device farm and then remotely?
The question, I always wondered how they deal with that. The question is it possible to run a device on a device farm? Well, yes, and I don't know what they do at that point. Like you could you kind of get a persistent, attack vector on some of these devices. I don't know. I doubt that they're doing DFU restores between every single person who's using these things. And on Android, that won't even help. Like, because on Android, oftentimes there isn't a good way of doing a DFU restore. And so I don't know how these device farms deal with that. I don't think you should do that, by the way.
Yeah.
I do not recommend that. All right, and I think that we are officially effectively out of time. So, I mean, I'm going to be here for the rest of the day. I don't even leave until tomorrow. And so, if you have any more questions about this tool or anything, I clearly love this tool. I spent a lot of time in this tool, and so I end up using it for a lot of my debugging tasks. It is something that I was very happy to find people who give talks about this tool at security conferences and stuff that they've been doing with it. I still haven't actually watched any of those talks. A little bit concerned to see how they describe it. But I have seen people in the jailbreak community give talks on how it's helped them introspect applications to understand how those work, and people who are now doing app store development. So
what's the stable jailbreaking OS that you like best?
Right now, you can downgrade to iOS 9.3.3. Actually, this as of yesterday, I didn't check today. You can downgrade to iOS 9.3.3, and you can run the Pengu. I don't even know how to pronounce it anymore. NV. It's like they're now using a form of transcription of Chinese. I don't know, but something or other sword. I think it's Numa sword, and you can jailbreak it. And actually, if you want to inject into many of the apps on iOS 9.3.3, you actually need the upgrades to script that I'll be releasing later today, which I did last night in order to help Tom with the next app. Yeah.
Do you think script in the future could be used to do something like create the ghost Xcode? Do you think it could be used to modify Xcode?
You could. I wouldn't recommend doing. I mean, if you're going to do that, use Substrate. It will be probably less detectable, and it will probably be more functional. Script is great for interacting, but if you're going to make a persistent modification to something, I think you'll have a little more stability doing it in native code with Substrate. So the question was though about like how to do something horrible, and I'm just like nonchalantly like yeah. The system integrity protection will protect you against that sort of. I mean, the real thing with Ghost Xcode is that people are downloading a fundamentally different Xcode. I mean, you could just give them a different app. That looks sort of like Xcode, and as long as it crashes occasionally, people will never know the difference. Yeah. All right.
Jay, very quickly, what's the difference between Substrate and Script?
Substrate is a native library that so here I was able to use Substrate using some bindings from Script, but Script is those functions at the C level. It's a framework that also you install on your iPhone, and it affects the startup of all processes so that it can inject libraries into them, and it's got filters that determine. It's kind of like we're building a Chrome extension for apps. And I've thought about trying to. The problem is this Apple keeps making the concept of doing system-wide modifications more and more risky, combined with more and more awkward on newer versions of Mac OS X as they add more integrity protection and sandboxing. I keep figuring out cool ways of getting rid of more and more layers of sandboxing and not caring about it, but it's just, yeah. I mean, it's just getting to the point where I've got to jailbreak my Mac, and it's making me very, very unhappy. I'm still using 10.9. I don't have to jailbreak it. It's great. Of course, I say jailbreak. I mean, the Apple currently is providing a supported way of doing it, so it's not really a jailbreak. But I feel like in another year or two, Apple's going to start phasing these features out. I mean, I had this timeline when they first announced the gatekeeper of like what they're going to start doing, and they in fact have followed that timeline of like we're going to make it default, and then we're going to like remove the secondary setting, and then we're going to make it so you got to reboot your computer in order to make these changes, and so they're just going to phase that all out. Yeah, we really are now out of time. But again, I continue to be here, and we'd love to talk to you about. That's great.